Fish 24. ЩЭДРA, the working class. A worker, ЩЭДРA, in Sanskrit, is a man who is paid money, or some other form of compensation, traditionally, usually paid with food, clothing, and/or shelter, especially in communities that didn't use money, to perform specified tasks for another person or organization, but usually on behalf of a businessman, since businesses and farm owners are by far the greatest employers of staff in a free market economy. In my own case, I have employed several human beings to labor for my mission, in exchange for food, shelter, as well as copies of my hymnal. So, by definition, a democratically elected politician is actually a member of the working class, and not a member of the ruling class, since he receives a set wage from his employers, the tax-paying public. However, because politicians are literally stealing the occupation of a monarch, they cannot truly be classified as workers, but as criminals. This applies to any other work necessitating immorality, such as prostitution, police and military personnel who serve illegitimate governments, and in those industries in which animals are unjustifiably harmed, such as animal husbandry, otherwise known as animal agriculture, circuses, the fur trade, leatherwork, zoological gardens, and the racing of horses. A true king, on the other hand, would never condescend to such behavior as being a politician. A monarch has been mandated to govern his people by a higher power, rather than the voting public, who will simply vote for a leader who will satisfy their whims, rather than discharge God's perfect will, or for atheistic readers, submit to the universal moral law, explicated in chapter 12 of this most sacred of Holy Scriptures. Women are permitted to perform work only in dire circumstances, or when a certain task can be performed only by a female. Read the following chapter of this holiest of Holy Scriptures in order to learn about the proper role of girls and women within human society. The essential role of a competent worker should be to follow the same process that all subordinates ought to follow with respect to their superiors, that being their masters and/or mistresses. That is to say, they should look at their master whilst conversing with him, carefully listen to what their master is positing, try to understand the said instruction, or else request that their employer explain themselves in a more easily understandable manner, answer their master, e.g., "Yes, sir," or "Okay, boss," and dutifully accomplish the tasks required of them. This procedure may be summarized by the following 5 steps. 1. Look. 2. Listen. 3. Learn. 4. Answer. And 5. Obey. NB. Obviously, the term worker pertains solely to workers. Therefore, those men who belong to one of the other 3 classes of society, namely, business owners, kings, and priests, should never be associated with the terms work or worker. A businessman does not work as such, he owns a mercantile enterprise. A monarch does not work, his divinely mandated role is to rule a nation. Priests are not workers, their vocation is to teach all things necessary for human society to function smoothly, that is, law, dharma, yoga, religion, metaphysics, proper diet, etc. As mentioned in the first paragraph, work is an occupation that one performs purely in exchange for a set wage, either in cash or in kind. See also the entry, caste, in the glossary of this holy scripture, especially if you happen to be in any way connected with Vedic culture. You shall not oppress a hired worker who is poor and needy, whether he is one of your brothers or one of the sojourners who are in your land within your towns. Deuteronomy 24:14. Holy Bible. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. Stephen Paul Jobs. American business magnate. He who stands on tiptoe doesn't stand firm. He who rushes ahead doesn't go far. He who tries to shine dims his own light. He who defines himself can't know who he really is. He who has power over others can't empower himself. He who clings to his work will create nothing that endures. If you want to record with the Tao, Just do your job, then let go. Tao Te Ching, Chapter 24. Laozi, or Lao Tzu. In this age, the most common relationship people have with God is to be a thief of God, to try to take as much as possible. The idea of being a servant of God is to be a total slave to God. It is in that slavery that we attain freedom. Robert Shunyamurti, Shubo. Abbot, Sat Yoga Institute, Costa Rica.